hard with the virtual meetings, the virtual competitions, but again, we're just really excited to potentially have some in-person gameplay and some in-person meetings. So let's get another round of applause for that. All right, so just a couple housekeeping things before we get started. First, I'd like to introduce David Perry, the OrTalk Executive Director. Do you want to talk about the COVID requirements?
Sure, yeah. All right. Morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Just a few things I want to say. Big thanks to both students and mentors. All a huge round of applause. Putting together highly recommend either your rookie year or you started last year into your semi-rookie year. It's so exciting to be here in person and actually be able to look around a room and see a whole bunch of people instead of a whole bunch of squares on a screen. That's so thank you everybody for being so willing to come out in the rain, but also to wear your mask, be willing to show vaccination. Our most important concern is that we're going to be able to keep being able to be in person. So we want to continue to have competitions and events like this. So what's going to help us make it through the season. So thank you so much for doing that. The requirements are similar to what you experience in school or your workplace. So don't be stressed out about it. Just if you have questions, ask. One of the things that I'm really excited about is that we're a community that's really good about safety measures. So just like your safety glasses, the mask is basically our new safety glasses. So that's it. I don't want to take up too much time now. I'll talk a little bit more about Kickoff and the game of the year afterwards, and I'll hand it back. Thanks, guys.
But now let's just run through the agenda before we get started for today. The agenda. So in just a few moments, we'll watch the game reveal video, and we'll also have some words from David Perry. And then after that, we will have the game with video, which is behind this projector screen. We'll unveil it, and you guys can ask questions. It'll be working separately. And then before we open up for interaction, we'll have a presentation by me. All right, and now let's move on to the game reveal video. But before that, do you have any more? Thank you. All right, the next joke is, why do robots make bad teachers? Anyone? All right, the answer is because they just grow on and on.
All right, the next joke. What is a robot's favorite country? Any? All right. Okay, so a robot's favorite country is Botswana.
I think we can. We have about 2 minutes.
So the next trivia question is, what does Warthog stand for?
Yeah.
Over there in the
Kickoff.
Let's go.
Hello, and welcome First Tech Challenge teams. I'm First Tech Challenge Program Director, Ken Johnson, and I'm excited to be here for the First Tech Challenge 2021 season kickoff and the big reveal of Freight Frenzy presented by Raytheon Technologies. We're thrilled to have Raytheon Technologies as our Freight Frenzy presenting sponsor, which is just one part of the First Forward season presented by Qualcomm. We have a full show today, packed with kickoff messages from some familiar first faces, a gracious professionalism message from our Dean's List award winners, the Freight Frenzy season reviews during the season. To get us started, here's First founder, Dean Kamen.
Hello, First Tech Challenge teams, and welcome to First Forward, this year's season presented by Qualcomm. This season's First Tech Challenge game is Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies. Every year we make the game more challenging, and every year you amaze us with your solutions. As I've always said, First creates the hardest fun you'll ever have, and I hope you use this experience to start you on a pathway to solving some of the world's biggest problems, as I hope you pursue careers in technology. Good luck to everybody. I look to see you at events throughout the season.
Thanks, Dean. And now I'd like to share some of the things you can expect in the upcoming Freight Frenzy season. Another incredible First Tech Challenge season is here, and I want to share a few things about this season we think you're really going to like. The biggest change this year will be the return of in-person play. We know not all regions will be back 100% to traditional events, but we hope most of you will be able to get together for live competition. I can tell you we miss them, and I know our students, coaches, volunteers, and sponsors can't wait to get back out there, to compete, see what others have accomplished, and renew friendships, or at least friendly rivalries. There are still many unknowns, and we realize some regions and countries may choose the remote event format we introduced last year due to social distancing rules in their area. The good news is that the FTC scoring system for Freight Frenzy will support remote events for both individual robot match play and remote judging, just like last season. And, like last year, regions can switch from one format to the other mid-season if necessary. Your program delivery partner will make that call based on local rules and conditions. This season, teams will again be able to request judge feedback from their interviews and the materials they submit for judging. We added this feature as an opt-in option last year. You already know judges can only pick one winner, and the award competition across FTC is tough. We added this option as a valuable tool for teams to understand how they can improve. I encourage teams to ask for this feedback at your events this year. What else is new? Well, we just introduced the Driver Hub into the standard FTC kit of parts. The Driver Hub can be used to replace the driver's side smartphone and USB hub and connector with a single device. The Driver Hub operates on the Android operating system, which has been slimmed down, has a great user interface, and was built for our FTC competition environment. You can still use your smartphone and USB hub in FTC this season and going forward. We created a Tech Talk video on this subject with more detail. Check it out. I can't wait to see you play Freight Frenzy this year, in person and with all the wonderful excitement our games and events generate. I'll see you soon. A huge thank you to all our sponsors this year, making our First Forward season and Freight Frenzy game possible. Since 2006, Qualcomm has supported FIRST programs, events, and teams worldwide and has also been a major technology partner with FIRST Tech Challenge. Through their collaboration and support of FIRST, Qualcomm is helping build the pipeline of STEM leaders who will drive the invention age.
Hello, FIRST Tech Challenge teams, and welcome to the First Forward season presented by Qualcomm. My name is Susie Armstrong, and I am a Senior Vice President of Engineering at Qualcomm. We are so happy to be a part of this exciting season as we explore the future of transportation and how it impacts individuals and economies across the globe. The future of transportation is so vast, from getting packages delivered to your front door to bringing humans to space. So much technology from the business community powers the future, and we at Qualcomm are so excited to play a role in it. Our foundational wireless technologies transforms how the world connects, computes, and communicates, and has the power to enhance how goods and people travel, providing increased visibility and control over transportation systems. From the wireless technology that keeps us all interconnected, to powering solutions to explore life beyond Earth, Qualcomm has always been at the forefront of transportation innovation. And now it's your turn to drive. In First Forward, FIRST teams will explore how to innovate for future transportation ecosystems, making the delivery of essential items faster and more sustainable than ever before. You are forging a new path, accelerating the breakthroughs of tomorrow, and you are driving FIRST Forward, full speed ahead. Good luck to all this season.
Thank you, Susie, and thank you, Qualcomm. In FIRST Tech Challenge, you're developing real-world skills such as digital literacy, teamwork, leadership, creative problem-solving, and project management, skills that are used every day at Raytheon Technologies.
Hello, FIRST Tech Challenge teams. We're excited to welcome you to Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies. I'm Mark Iwamoto, a FIRST Tech Challenge alum and a radar systems engineer here at Raytheon Technologies. Just like FIRST Tech Challenge, at Raytheon Technologies, we're accelerating ideas to solve some of the world's biggest challenges through collaboration, innovation, and of course, gracious professionalism. When I was in FIRST, my team's robot included materials like plywood, PVC pipes, surgical tubing, and a lot of glue and duct tape. We found unique solutions to be competition ready and the opportunity to tackle engineering problems in a large team setting. Now, I work on the ASARS-2B program, an advanced all-weather surveillance radar that flies on the Lockheed Martin U-2 aircraft. I always knew I was interested in engineering, but it was the hands-on engineering and mentorship from Raytheon and other industry engineers that solidified my desire and gave me the skills, confidence, and opportunity to pursue it. Now it's your chance to build the skills and confidence to forge your own path and find unique solutions to Freight Frenzy and the real-world challenges beyond. Aaron, what about you?
Mark is absolutely right. FIRST Tech Challenge taught me the power of creative problem solving, collaboration, learning through failure, and perseverance. Hi teams, my name's Erin Kerrigan Mitchell, FIRST Tech Challenge alum, shout out to Team 4140 Fish in the Boat, mentor for all 3 FIRST programs, event volunteer, and a manufacturing engineer at Collins Aerospace. FIRST is the reason that I am an engineer. It's also why I work at Collins Aerospace. And at Collins, my various engineering roles have not only allowed me to be innovative, but contribute to the innovation and improvement of humanitarian transportation. And now I work on producibility and ease of assembly, so that when parts need to be installed or replaced on a plane, it can be done quickly, safely, and in a variety of environments. The product I currently work on helps with overheat detection along the wing of the aircraft, so there's constant feedback to the pilot on the endurance levels of the plane, especially critical in dangerous weather or when transporting important material. Innovations and inventions of every size can make an impact, and the future of transporting critical items quickly, safely, and efficiently relies on your creative solutions. Good luck this season, teams.
Thanks, Aaron, and hello, FIRST Tech Challenge teams. I'm Daniel Fishman, proud FIRST alum, FIRST Robotics competition mentor, event volunteer, and project engineer at Pratt & Whitney. Through my experience in FIRST, I started to develop the skills necessary to communicate and cooperate with diverse groups. I also learned how to grow from my failures as well as my successes. On top of these soft skills, I obtained the engineering skills necessary to build a robot. Every day, I continue to develop and build these skills with my new team at Pratt. Like Mark and Aaron, my experience with FIRST helped launch my career in engineering. Thanks to the valuable mentorship from Pratt & Whitney engineers on my FIRST team, I obtained multiple internships. Now, I get to develop innovative solutions for a class of Pratt & Whitney engines that support global humanitarian efforts. How will you use the skills you're developing today to build your projects of tomorrow? Good luck this season, and thanks for participating in Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies.
Thank you. Without the support of sponsors, volunteers, program delivery partners, and all of you at home, First Tech Challenge wouldn't be possible. In addition to celebrating our sponsors, we also want to celebrate our FIRST alumni and give a shout out to our alumni and scholarship program at FIRST. While we know the world isn't back to normal yet, we are excited to have more in-person events this season. No matter what our season looks like, at the heart of each and every FIRST event is gracious professionalism. Here's our 2020-2021 Dean's List winners to remind us all about the importance of gracious professionalism this season.
Gracious professionalism to me is being able to create and partake in a community where everyone's ideas and opinions are valued.
It means being trustworthy, respectful, and always ready to work with others to help them grow.
Working hard to reach your goals in the competition, while also helping other teams reach their own goals.
Being nice and respectful to your competitors and treating them as friends while learning and growing with them as a community.
It means creating an inclusive community by helping others and even sharing information with other teams.
One way we can be gracious professionals is to share our work with the FIRST community online, so others can learn from us and we can learn from others.
As members of FIRST, we learn and compete, but treat one another with respect and kindness in the process.
Building the best possible future for everyone. Even though we are all competing against each other, if we raise our competitors up, we all win.
FIRST depends on our community embracing gracious professionalism, making it a priority in the competition season and part of your everyday life. This season, your goal is to be a collaborative teammate, a respected competitor, and a better person, which are all central themes of being a gracious professional. Speaking of gracious professionals, volunteers are critical to the success of our program, and this game was created by a very dedicated group of volunteers. So I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our volunteers, and especially our game design team, for creating such a fantastic game this season. I think they really outdid themselves. After the reveal, make sure to stick around for the field walkthrough. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the big reveal of the 2021-2022 First Tech Challenge game, Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies.
turn down the rates, and there she flies.
I'm sure you're all wondering why you're here. Does anyone know what this is? A robot? It's not just any robot. What? You all have something special that would make you perfect for this team, and we'll need all of you to solve this. So what do you say?
I'm in.
Yes. Let's do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Your upcoming challenge in Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies, is to work together as a team to build a robot that can traverse rough terrain and obstacles to transport a variety of freight from warehouses to shipping hubs. The future of transportation is evolving. Will you take the wheel?
Welcome to the First Tech Challenge 2021-2022 season game, Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies. A team consists of up to 2 driver-operators, a coach, and a robot. The robot must be built from materials specified in the game manual and fit within an 18-inch sizing tool, but may expand after the match begins. Each match is played with 4 randomly selected teams, 2 per alliance. Your opponent for one match may be your partner for another. The game is played on a 12-foot square playing field with a foam tile floor and 1-foot-high walls. In the back of the field are taped-off warehouses, which are alliance neutral. Obstructing the warehouses are barriers that robots must drive over or around. At the front of the field are Alliance-specific storage units. Alliance-specific carousels are mounted on the front corners of the field walls. Alliance-specific barcode tape is located between the warehouses and the storage units. 4 unique navigation images are located around the field perimeter. 2 Alliance-specific shipping hubs and a 3rd shared shipping hub are positioned as shown. Outside of the field walls are the red and blue Alliance stations. There are 2 types of freight: 20 pieces of cargo, 2.7 inches in diameter, and 2-inch square boxes in various weights. 30 lightweight, 20 medium, and 10 heavy boxes. 4 of the lightweight boxes are marked with an X. In addition, rubber ducks will play a key role in the game, and teams will be constructing their own custom-designed shipping elements. Before each match, the freight is stored in the warehouses and a preload box is placed onto the field for each robot. A duck is placed onto each carousel and in the middle position of each barcode. The remaining ducks are stored in the Alliance loading docks. Teams then place their robots on the field, touching the wall adjacent to their Alliance station but not in a warehouse. The teams then place one preload box for each robot. A team may then decide to use their own shipping element in place of a duck on the barcode, or store their shipping element in the loading dock. The duck or shipping element on the barcode is then randomized to one of 3 locations. The players and field are now ready. Each match begins with a 30-second autonomous period. During this period, there are a number of ways for teams to score, using only pre-programmed instructions and sensor inputs. Delivering the duck from the carousel earns 10 points. Each piece of freight delivered to the Alliance's storage unit will earn 2 points. Each preloaded box placed on an Alliance's shipping hub earns 6 points. But there are ways to earn bonus points. If the box is placed on the correct level as indicated by the duck's location on the barcode, the Alliance earns a 10-point bonus. If a robot places its preload box on the level shown by its Alliance's shipping element position on the barcode, it will earn a 20-point bonus. A robot parked on its Alliance's storage unit earns 3 points. However, if the robot is parked completely in the storage unit, it will earn 6 points. A robot parked in the warehouse closest to its Alliance station earns 5 points. If the robot is completely inside the warehouse, it will earn 10 points. Following the autonomous period is the 2-minute driver-controlled period. During this time, Alliances score points by delivering freight to storage units and shipping hubs. For example, each piece of freight delivered to an Alliance's storage unit will earn 1 point. Freight scored on an Alliance's shipping hub will earn 2 points on a level 1, 4 points on a level 2, and 6 points on level 3. Each freight scored on the Alliance's side of the shared shipping hub will score 4 points for their Alliance. The last 30 seconds of the driver control period is the end game. Robots may continue scoring freight, and there are also ways to earn bonus points. Delivering a duck or shipping element to the floor earns the Alliance 6 points. A balanced shipping hub at the end of the match earns 10 points. If an Alliance's section of the shared shipping hub is in contact with the tile floor, that Alliance earns 20 points. Robots parked in a warehouse earn 3 points. However, if the robot is parked completely in the warehouse, it earns 6 points. Each team's shipping element, fully supported by a shipping hub center pole or another team's capped shipping element, will earn 15 points. There are many ways to score in Freight Frenzy, but there are also rules that, if not followed, will deduct points from your Alliance. For example, robots cannot interfere or interact with the opposing Alliance shipping hub. Scoring elements may not be launched. Robots may not interfere with their opposing Alliance's capping attempts. Only one duck or team shipping element is allowed on the carousel at a time. A robot may not cause an opposing Alliance robot to become pinned, trapped, or blocked. This is just a brief summary of the Freight Frenzy game. For complete rules, please read the game manual and check the Q&A forum. And always remember the most important rule of First Tech Challenge: gracious professionalism. Good luck, teams, and have a great season.
What a game we have this season. Here to give us a closer look at the field is Aaron Fadden, Game Design Committee team member and First Tech Challenge project manager.
Hi everyone, I'm Erin Fadden, member of the First Tech Challenge Game Design Committee. Now that you've seen the Freight Frenzy presented by Raytheon Technologies game, let's talk about some of the unique challenges that you'll see in this year's game. First, let's talk about the autonomous task, specifically reading the barcodes. When a team arrives at the field for pre-match setup, there will be a duck located on the middle barcode facing to the right. A team places their robot touching their alliance wall and must preload the preload box. A robot may either be touching the preload box or in full possession of it. Now, a team has the option of introducing their team shipping element onto the field in place of the duck. Once placed, the actual location of the duck or team shipping element will be randomized. This task is really about reading the barcode to determine where the duck or team shipping element is located. The location of either indicates which level of the Alliance shipping hub to score the preload box. Teams receive more points for this task using the team shipping element in place of the duck. Located in the back of the field are the warehouses. Each warehouse holds approximately half of the freight. Freight consists of cargo and 3 different weighted boxes. The warehouses are Alliance neutral, as are the scoring elements. In order for a robot to legally collect and possess freight, they must first start completely out of the warehouse, drive completely in the warehouse, collect 1 piece of freight, and then drive completely out of the warehouse with the collected freight. To access the warehouse, robots will need to traverse over the barriers. Now, there have been allowances made for robots to avoid driving over the barriers, as there is an approximate 13.75-inch gap. Teams will need to factor this into their robot design strategy. Do you build a robot that will be able to fit through the gap, or would a better strategy be to build a larger robot that can successfully cross the barriers? As mentioned in the game animation, there are 3 different weighted boxes that make up the freight. Teams can strategize how they program their robot or use sensors to determine the weight of the box as they retrieve them from the warehouse, because the weights will make a difference when placed onto the Alliance or shared shipping hubs. All of the shipping hubs have a wobble base. For the Alliance shipping hubs, you want to try and keep those balanced throughout the match, meaning the rim of the shipping hub is not in contact with the floor. The shared shipping hub is split for use of both of the alliances, and the intent is to have the shared shipping hub tipped in favor of your alliance with the rim of the hub touching the floor. In front of the field towards the audience are 2 carousels, one for the red alliance and one for the blue alliance. Teams will need to be thoughtful when designing a mechanism to interact with the carousel. The robot may only interact with the rim of the carousel to make the platform of the carousel spin. Spinning the carousel and knocking the duck or team shipping element to the floor is the only way to legally deliver the elements to earn points. During the endgame, robots may now cap their Alliance shipping hub. Teams will need to be thoughtful about their team shipping element design strategy, as well as how they place the team shipping element onto the hub. The goal is to cap the Alliance shipping hub while still keeping the hub balanced. I hope you enjoyed this overview of Freight Frenzy presented by Raytheon Technologies. Please make sure to read both the Game Manual Part 1 and Game Manual Part 2. There are 2 versions of each of these manuals on our website for both remote and traditional gameplay. Also, every team is allocated 1 account to ask questions and receive official answers on the First Tech Challenge forum throughout the season. Thanks for taking a closer look. We're excited to see how you work together and use your robots to build a path forward.
Thanks so much, Erin. The field looks full of exciting and fun new challenges. This season is going to be off the rails. We can't wait to see your creative solutions and robots in action on the field. And if you're watching but haven't registered yet, there's still time to hop on board. Visit our website for details and get started. Be sure to tag First Tech Challenge on your team's social media throughout the season so we can keep in touch and see how your team is tackling the game. Thanks for joining us for Kickoff this season, and for all of us here at First Tech Challenge, good luck and have a great year. And I hope to see you out there in person soon.
a very interesting video, and we are definitely super excited for this year's challenge. So now we would like to introduce Aaron Pearl. An ORTOP volunteer and addict since 2009, Aaron Pearl is the first Oregon FTC Head Championship referee since 2011 and an ORTOP board member since 2018. Aaron graduated from university with a double degree in computer science and astronomy. She has been an Intel employee since 2006 and currently works as a technical program manager for Intel InnoSource Initiative. Erin has happily been married to a fellow nerd since 2007 and is the mom of 2 kiddos, a 10-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy, as well as her 3 furry friends, 2 dogs, and a cat. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Aaron Pearl.
If you guys have questions, we'll be passing around the mic, so speak into the mic so everyone can hear the question. And then Aaron also has a mic so you guys can hear the answer.
Excellent. Oh, live stream too.
Not on the camera.
I can be in the field.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for being here. I'm so excited to be here. I didn't realize that I needed like rubber ducky themed stuff. So watch for that later this season, but it's so fun. So you all just saw the video, and it's super exciting. I think this is a very different game, and I think that I didn't know she was going to walk through some of the stuff on the field, so I think she called out some of the challenges that's going to happen here. But I just want to give a quick common disclaimer. You've heard it from me before, if you've seen me before. Anything I talk about now is not something that we can use at the events going forward, right? This is just what I know as of today. In general, the order of precedence is that you should always pay attention to the posts in the forum, then the game manual part 2, then any videos that are up officially from first. So it's possible that even some of the stuff in today's video will get superseded. Those who aren't familiar with the forum, I think they put a more convenient link up on the video. That was nice too. And give a quick shout out that forum, but and then my last little homework, double check going through the inspection checklist and seeing your robot, especially before whatever event you're going to attend, because you know the make sure the robots. So here I am in the middle of a great field, right? We're there, we're in great. I think you all probably noticed we're still doing the 2 alliance, 2 per alliance, 4 robots in the field. Oh my gosh, that's so fun! It's different than normal robots, right? So let's do that for sure. And then we're still doing the autonomous control in it. So I did want to go over the scoring elements just to call out. Right? We have the targets, which are the little balls, right? And then we have the different traits. So some of them, you guys probably recognize last season, but some of them have weights in them. So that's just going to determine how your robot picks them up differently and go from there. So again, there's 26 of the light, 20 of the medium, and 10 of the heavy. And then there's 20 little ducks. And I hope they survive this season, so don't run over them too much, right? But they're super cute, and they actually are a bit of a challenge, right? It's a whole different shape, it's a different weight, and they squish. So we'll see. So I just want to go through some of the beginnings. So again, we have the drive teams on each side, right? You have the 2 drivers and the 1 coach. There is no human player this year. I don't know if everyone caught that. You are able to introduce items from outside the field into the field, such as the ducks, or your team-specific shipping, whatever, element. But it's just going to be done by whoever's in the drives team station, so that's pretty interesting. And then you're going to preload one of your boxes if you want to for the freight. Again, they'll have some with X's on them, and those are specifically the preload ones. And then you'll do your starting location, which again is against the wall that's closest to your alliance station. but you can't be in certain parts of the field if you're going to end up scoring immediately in that position. So go through that, make sure you know. Then we're going to randomize the field into one of 3 locations, which are basically these taped off dots, right? Depending on whether you put your team-specific shipping element, or if you just stuck with the rubber ducky that was on the field, that's fine too. And then the other thing is, I know that you guys create these shipping elements, and sometimes the exact positioning that you put them onto the square really matters. You have to keep in mind that the refs are going to do their best to keep that positioning, but then we have to randomize it. So we're going to do our best to like pick it up and then put it back where it needs to go on the square it needs to go on, but just be sensitive to that and try and make sure that you can handle a little bit of distance or change in that. Okay, so swim this period, yay, 30 seconds, they didn't change this. So I think that this one, the main thing you're trying to do here is the carousel, which is 10 points, right? And you're just trying to deliver a duck. So I like the part of the video where she showed that the carousel is sometimes hard, because if you spin it too fast, we're gonna go down the stairs. But also if you put it on a different part of the carousel, then it might not actually get knocked off when the robot's interacting with it, so that's interesting. So you're gonna have to play with that and have some fun and see what your robots do. Now what I did right there, definitely not allowed. So it's 1 duck at a time on the carousel. And most of them will just be sitting outside right in front of the Alliance station waiting for one of the members of the drive team to pick them up and put them in. Again, no specific human player, but just part of the drive team. Okay, so you're doing delivering a duck from the carousel. You're parking in 3 different parts. So you have the robot in the storage unit, which this is your storage unit if you're blue, so you're coming from wherever you were. Or partially in, so 3 points. And then also in the warehouse or completely in the warehouse. And that's 5 or 10. So that's going to be interesting to see if you pull that off. And then freight is if you delivered it to the storage unit, and again, that one has to be completely, so 2 points per piece of freight. And then also if you put it into your shipping hub. So that one is so shipping hub is pretty unique. That's wobble. I will go over some of the possibilities, but one of them is how I and go from there. Okay. The autonomous bonus that they were talking about is put one of your preloaded box onto the shipping hub, but then you put it onto the randomized level, and that's if you're using the dock or your shipping element. So whatever you put off the field that was on your marker, put it on the correct randomized level, then you're going to get the extra autonomous bonus. Okay, I'm just going to blast through them, and I'm going to let you guys ask questions. Okay, so between the two, again, it's just that we're trying to get you back into starting your driver controlled, and then they'll do the 3, 2, 1, go countdown, right? And then we'll start the driver control. So this one, the main things you're doing is delivering freight in the storage unit. So again, this has to be in. You're putting these on the Alliance specific shipping hub, and depending on the level that you're on, you're getting freight somehow into Alliance specific areas. It has 0 value. I haven't figured out how that would happen, but it's there. And then in-game happens. So again, you're most the delivery of freight. And then in-game happens, you can continue delivery of freight. That's fine. Or you can do the extra item. That one. So basically, anything you start before endgame, if you're supposed to be doing during endgame, will get 0 points. You have to wait for that endgame bell. And then we always wait for things to come to rest at the end, so something's still moving. But if you are doing the Docker team shipping elements, you can deliver those directly. You can do the shipping hub status. That's the one where they showed if you have this one down. So again, you just have to watch during the game how you're loading your freight onto there. And then this one you actually want to have unbalanced. I think I do not understand if this was swapped. No. Okay, but you're trying to get it to lean towards your right? Double checking. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. And then I just wanted to go through, let's see. Oh yeah, and then you can park in the warehouse or completely in the warehouse, and then you can do capping. So they show the part where you're trying to possibly put your team shipping element on top of your shipping hub, and then hopefully no one's agreeing with you. But that could be a you're only supported by the center pole above level 3, right? So that's again, you have to let go of it, no break it up, right? So that one's got it. Okay. So before I go into penalties, I'll pause for a question. If anybody has any questions, or you want me to just go ahead and ask questions? Anybody? Okay. So I'll just go through. I know because I just explained the cool stuff you can do, but we also have to watch for the with so this one's so we have the minor penalties at 10 points, and then I don't really go down to and then also the penalty points are subtracted from your lines of score. That has always been true in past, so I'm sure people understand that. And before I go through this again, I just want to emphasize. So it's always important to be manual parts to whole. But what I say is that if you run out of time, you've already read it in whole, and you're not going to read it in whole 6 times every season, I would always review the penalty summary table before you go to any kind of like double check the penalty summary table, because you probably changed the strategy or something that you did in between your event. And just by going through the penalty summary table, you'll just know you have to go read one more specifically. You'll be like, oh, that might be what we're doing. That one is common, but I do want to just go through. So there's no, I mean, you're going to get a penalty if you do score this season. So if you score from an alliance's storage unit, so let's take stuff out of here. If you score from an opposing alliance's carousel, the opposing alliance's shipping hub. So again, the shared one over here, but then we have the shipping hub. And then if you actually do score from their side of the shipping hub, you have to be careful, kind of like wherever elements are already stored. You're not supposed to reload. That's actually when I was reading through, I was like, oh no, why wouldn't they just bring it all the way over here? Well, they want you to leave the proxy where it is, so that'll be okay. And then interacting with the shared shipping hub during autonomous. So the shared one is supposed to be left alone during autonomous. There's no reason to be doing it. And then relocating or rotating the shared shipping hub. So yes, not more than relocating. Don't rotate it. It actually, yeah, it needs to stay so that the red side goes towards the red alliance, and vice versa. And then interfering with the opposing alliance's shipping hub. That's still the animation video, but yeah, you're interfering with it. Okay, and then the team shipping element constraint. So placing the team shipping element on the shared shipping hub. I don't know why you would do that because you're not going to get points to it. But if you put your code or whatever you create as an element on top of there, you're going to incur a penalty. I don't know. Maybe put it there so that it would unbalance. Anyway, don't do it. And then also interfering with the opposing alliance that's trying to do the cap, right? So they're supposed to have access to be able to put their shipping element at the cap, and then controlling the opposing alliance's team shipping element at all. So it could be anywhere on the floor, because remember, out here, if you choose to preload it as part of autonomous, team shipping element, or it can be delivered into a carousel, deliver a duck. But once it's on the floor, no other robot on the opposing line should be okay, the violating of warehouse operations. So I was like, what is this? I don't understand. all this time. Then you have to drive completely out, not just feel like every part of the robot is completely out, with the correct collective rate. So that's really interesting, especially if you have some pusher or bulldozer robots. First of all, you have to figure out how to push your bulldozer. One piece, right? So you're supposed to collect one piece, and then as you're driving over the line, what if it rolls like way out in front of you, right? So they do have a little bit of I think this will be added to the QA thing, but the thought is that if it drove out completely in front of you, at some point you need to catch up and get with it again, and then be still completely out of the warehouse. But I would just say your goal is to make it clear to anyone that's watching the match that you drove completely out of the warehouse with the collective freight. So how can you do that, right? So that's an interesting one. Don't launch scoring elements. They talked about that during the video. So everything in this game is about placing scoring elements. Carousel constraints. So robots aren't supposed to put anything on the carousel. Again, I don't know why you would, but maybe you did accidentally. And then you are not supposed to impact the top or the bottom of the carousel. So it's just supposed to really be the edge that you're working with, as far as I can tell. And that one actually is one of those ones where you'll get a fine or penalty and then you'll keep getting it every 5 seconds that it's happening. So I'd just say watch out for that. And then contacting a scoring element while it's on the carousel, because again, the goal is that you're delivering the scoring element into the gameplay area, then you're grabbing it. So you're not grabbing it off the carousel. Does that make sense? You have to deliver it all the way in. And then interacting or interfering with the opposing alliance's carousel at all, we talked about that, or the opposing alliance's robot while it's in contact with the carousel. So it's pretty much like if the robot's over here doing its job, then they need to be allowed to do their job, and you can't go over there and impact or interfere with that. So the carousel is pretty neat. I'm actually kind of excited to see how it goes. But they do protect it because they want you to use it and play that game piece. Okay, and then there's always something about controlling or limiting possession of scoring elements. So again, don't hurt things. And then don't score while in possession of an excess quantity. What is the quantity? 1. So I'm just gonna put that out there. The goal is to play the game and do individual freight and go from there. We are not the UPS trucks carrying all the packages from Amazon, right? Like we are picking up one piece of freight and delivering it at a time.
Not even clean.
Delivery constraints, there's only 2 more, so I'm just going to go through them. Delivery constraints, so a duck or a team shipping element must touch the floor before a robot can control it. So let's walk through that. In the beginning of the match, if you do it preloaded on one of the dots, the duck and the team shipping elements are in contact with the floor. So that's obvious and that's fine. But if you're delivering them into the match as we're playing, again, it has to come off the carousel. It can't just dump into your robot. It has to touch the floor first, and then you can gather it and do the scoring. Delivery is only by the carousel, just because there's a whole drive team over here and a big loading dock. Again, the only way to get things onto the field is via the carousel, which again is unique, I like it. And then placing ducks or the team shipping element on the carousel during autonomous is not allowed. So don't get handsy, and I would say don't even do it in between autonomous and driver controlled period. Just wait till driver says 3, 2, 1, go, then put it in, and it's obvious that it wasn't happening during autonomous, right? Delivery only happens during autonomous, delivery only during autonomous or end game. Oh yeah, so don't do that. And then 1 duck or shipping element at a time, which again I think we covered. And then if you somehow loaded the duck incorrectly, don't do that. Again, I'm not exactly sure how you would do that. And then anyone from the drive team. So if you are the one that's going to be taking the ducks from the outside loading dock and putting them on the carousel, you can't be touching the carousel while it's in motion. So you have to wait till the robot's done moving it, right? And you also, drive team touching, the duck while the carousel is in motion. You also can't be touching the carousel while it's in motion. So again, just pay attention if you're going to be the one putting that stuff on for delivery, making sure that you're paying attention to that. And then the only other one is that during autonomous period, they add this in at the end. They don't want you to interfere at all with the opposing alliance doing their scoring. So autonomous period tends to be pretty protected in various ways throughout the season. So this one, they're just saying any scoring attempts being done by the opposing team, you're not supposed to interfere with or create a program that consistently plays offense in that perspective, I guess. But I think that's about it. Again, I think the major ones come back to making sure you're not moving the shipping hubs, making sure you understand how to deliver deliver the ducks and the shipping elements into the field and making sure they hit the ground before you do something with them. And then also making sure you're only taking one freight at a time. Those ones stood out to me a lot. Okay, and I know that was a lot, but any questions?
Before we get started with questions, I'd just like to quickly introduce Bruce Schaefer. We're so lucky to have him here today. Just a
shout out.
Hi, Bruce. Just a little bit about Bruce before we hand it over for questions. He has served as the volunteer executive director of ORTOP until late 2016. And since retiring from this role, he has developed a series of video training modules on using sensors with and developing programs for robots. He remains an active member of ORTOP's board of directors. He also holds an MSEE with computer science emphasis from the University of California, Santa Barbara. Bruce Schaefer received an MSEE degree in computer science from the University of California in 1976. And after graduation, he held a technical and management positions at Intel and founded a software company as well. Finally, Bruce is the lead in the creation of a new master's degree program in software engineering at OSU.
I was going to say we didn't even call out your favorite hobby with the radios. If anybody does anything with radios, talk to Bruce. He loves to talk about it. All right, so any questions about the game? I know it's a lot, and I know you guys have a lot of digesting of the information to do, and planning and strategizing. I would say start your notebooks as you start that planning, right? Today is the first day of your notebook if you haven't started it already. So you were here, you listened to everything, you started brainstorming, you came and played with ducks, I don't know, but any other thoughts? Okay, go ahead.
Is there a certain orientation that you have to put the duck on the carousel?
So, yeah, actually, I think it's just a matter of making sure that you have not, that is on this side. It's not actually saying like where, but it doesn't want you to put it like easier to load. It needs to actually have to go all the way around before it gets on the field.
Can it be like sideways too?
As far as I know, the actual like direction of the duck isn't the problem. It's really just making sure that it goes all the way through the carousel. Great question. We're trying to optimize it already. That's exciting.
Is there a size limit to the shipping elements?
Yes, so the shipping elements actually in Game Manual Part 1 already. So I think some people have, or you guys had access to that before. So there's a little inspection checklist for the shipping elements specifically. So some of it's on the inspection checklist, but all the details are in the Game Manual Part 1. I think there was one over here. Yeah. Are you guys going to make big ducks so you can put everything's going to ducks? I don't know.
Taking cargo out of the storage area. So if you were to go, you can only take one piece at a out at a time. Right?
From the warehouse, yeah?
Yeah, from the warehouse. If you were to do something where your robot accidentally hit a couple pieces out of the store, out of the warehouse, would that incur a penalty?
Yeah, so some of that, it comes down to some of the interpretation of the referees as far as accidental versus on purpose. But it does go back to that whole possession and hurting penalty, and so it just have to be a judgment call based on the description of that penalty. So I think in some situations I've seen, we absolutely call the penalty because you had complete control and you shouldn't have been doing that. In other situations, maybe you don't get the penalty the first time, but then you didn't fix the situation and you could have, and at that point it now becomes on purpose because you didn't change your strategy or your build, right? So I would say that a lot of that is interpretation, and not just this rule, but I always encourage folks to think about it needs to be obvious that you're not incurring penalties, that you're not breaking the rules, right? And so if you're leading it up, you're having these things that constantly are occurring, and you're hoping that the referee rules in your favor, you probably need to revisit that, right? Because sometimes that's not going to be true. Happens in soccer and other sports all the time. Like, why were you doing that when it was such a risk, right? So I would just say, like, try and figure it out, but the rest will do the best they can to deal with that. Yeah. So good question. And I would say that that's always the harder one each season, especially as we do the early matches, is getting control of your robot in such a way that you're not overly controlling the game elements. So it's common to happen early in the leagues. Great question. I think that was like my biggest, like, okay, they put so many things on the field, how many can you control? Right? And one. So it's part of the challenge. Good. Any other questions?
So are all the game elements dispersed only in that corner tile, or are they going to be
Great. So it's approximately half. Sometimes we'll count, sometimes we won't. Are placed in each warehouse, right? So it's each warehouse. And then the shipping hubs are where they are. But they also have great appendices this year, kind of demonstrating pictures of various situations. And so the warehouse is definitely covered in that. So it wants it to be within like this foam square of the warehouse. The warehouse is this big, but they want like all of the freight to kind of start in the most corner foam square, approximately. And kind of like, as far as I can tell, we actually probably wouldn't start with stacked things yet. I don't think it says that specifically, but none of the pictures have stacked things, so I think we'd probably start that way. Any other questions there? That was a good one.
Are you able to spin the shared goal?
They don't want you to, yeah, so this one is don't relocate or rotate. It does say both those words on that one. Whereas this one just says don't relocate. I don't know why you rotate it, but maybe you need better access and you don't want to drive all the way around. Because again, you're not supposed to push it away from the approximate location. I just want to call out, like, these are more wobbly than I thought. I was excited to get here and try and figure it out. Like, these are pretty wobbly, so if you're putting balls on here, I think, like, the rolling factor is going to happen as they tilt, right? But it seems like, and you guys will play with this a little bit later, but it does seem like the blocks themselves, like, once you drop them into here, yeah, it's wobbly, but I think the block is going to stay in the approximate wedge area that you put it in. But that's 2 heavy blocks, right? Yeah, so 2 heavy blocks. Whoa, you got a lot to do to get the stuff over on the other side, right? So, any other questions?
Yeah, is there a divider between like the shared goal on the red and blue side?
So the divider. Yeah, so I'm going to lift up the shared goal. That's a great point. The shared shipping hub. So it does have the tape. And so, again, it's kind of like the outer edge of the plane, right? So the tape is actually supposed to be down the center, and they did pretty well with this one. But again, there's actually no, yeah, so I would just say it's back to, you're trying to make sure that it's unbalanced. You're not going to de-score once somebody else has put something in the red side. Oh yeah, closer to the camera. So you're not going to de-score once they put something in the red side, the blue can't move it, right? So again, it's just back to loading your side of it and making sure that it's super heavy by the end of the match, right? Great. No, you're good. I like the brainstorm.
So you said that you can't touch the duck on the carousel before it falls down?
No, you can't.
Okay.
Yeah, so the goal is that you're really only interacting with the edge of the carousel. Oh, sorry, if you're a robot, because again, the team player also does that. And then the contact exploring online. Great questions. All right, so I know later in the agenda, you guys get to come up here and kind of interact with some of the field and feel the wobbliness and how heavy some of the elements are. So I'll hang out for that too in case you come up with something else. But good. All right. Thanks, guys. Good luck. Or and he's one of our head refs. He said all year we should be saying good duck. Pretty fun.
Just before we get started, like the presentation and the field interaction, I'd like to call up David once again if you have any more words. We'd love to hear them.
Sure, I'll just wanted to do a quick connection to some of the other programs that are happening around FIRST, obviously. This year's theme is FIRST Forward, and as you heard in the video, teams, whether it's FIRST Lego League and Cargo Connect, FIRST Tech Challenge and Freight Frenzy, or FIRST Robotics competition in Rapid React, you're exploring transportation and how people and things move around. There's tremendous careers in this field and lots of local connections. So I definitely encourage you to explore some of those. What are some of those Oregon businesses that are involved in the transportation world? A lot of them are longtime sponsors of FIRST and are eager to have you as their future employees. Boeing, Daimler Trucks North America, one of the leaders in autonomous trucks. Tremendous opportunities, so definitely something to look at as you're going through the season. Transportation isn't just kind of cars and moving things around. The impacts of the transportation industry are enormous. I've got one trivia question since we had some earlier about Ortop. Does anybody know what invention necessitated
somewhere before they left. And before that, every town had their own
local timekeeping system, and they would set noon to whenever the sun was the highest point in the sky. So noon was different in every town across the United States. As soon as you have this train that's moving so fast and has to stay on schedule, that didn't work anymore. It caused all kinds of issues, so they had to invent time zones. So these transportation technologies are huge, huge drivers of all sorts of other engineering. And we've also seen this year how much we rely on them kind of behind the scenes. We've probably all had some sort of experience this past year trying to get a hold of something and the shelves are not stocked. We've heard about driver shortages, we've heard about gigantic container ships getting stuck in the Suez Canal. That was like one of the most amazing engineering things I've ever seen, with this huge ship and a tiny little backhoe trying to get it out. So lots of great engineering challenges and lots of great impacts. One of them has to do with the rubber ducky. Okay, this is, I don't know, maybe a little known, but the rubber ducky has a really funny, historic connection to freight and shipping. And I don't know if FIRST intentionally included the rubber ducky in Freight Frenzy because of this, but many, many years ago, a container ship crossing the Pacific lost a container of all sorts of items. You know, hits a big storm, the container falls over, opens up, and thousands of rubber duckies spill out into the ocean, okay, in the middle of the Pacific. It creates an amazing opportunity for scientists to then study how ocean currents work, because those rubber duckies started showing up. They started washing up. They went on this journey across the Pacific and washed. When we kind of see this new game and imagine ways that you'll solve it, I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. And I'll end there and let you guys get up here and take a look at the field. Have a good time.
Thank you so much, David, for going over that. And then also Aaron for going over some of the rules and regulations for this year's game. I thought, can we just get a special round of applause for the application of duckies to this game? Like, probably one of the most unique game elements I have ever seen in an FTC competition. And so now we are going to be moving on to one of the last items of from RevAmped. And while they're setting up, I'd just like to go over a quick trivia question, and I think Aaron had also covered this. Is there a human player in this year's game? No. Very good, yes, wonderful job. Yeah, there is no human player in this year's game, and as far as interaction with the field goes, on behalf of the human player, there will be a member from the drive team doing that. And then maybe one more trivia question that we have. Where is the World Championship hosted each year? Yeah.
Houston and Detroit.
That is correct. It is hosted in Houston, Texas, and it is hosted in Detroit as well. And so yeah, I think now we can move on to the presentation, and I'll hand it over to Shrey.
Yeah, thank you, Monsi. So let's just get started with the presentation. So it'll be delivered by the inside. And sorry guys, just give us a second.
Okay, there we go. Just to preface, I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a dry cough. Okay. Just some things. All right. Hello, everyone. By now, you should probably know RevAmped Robotics. And this is the second presentation out of our knowledge sharing series. So we have six presentations in 6 weeks. We hosted one last week over Zoom, and we covered mechanical design intro. And this time, we're going to be doing season success strategies. Okay. Yeah. Can you just next slide? Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. Next slide. All right. So before we start, we're just going to talk a little bit about us. So as a team, we are RevAmped Robotics, and we started during Relic Recovery in 2017, and we were a Worlds Division semifinalist. So that means we made it to Worlds and placed in the semifinals, but then eventually got eliminated in the semifinals. And From each year since then, we've also qualified to the highest level competition. So obviously, Skystone Worlds got canceled, and last year Worlds got canceled. Me, I can also talk about myself too. This is my 5th year in FTC, and Shrey along with I are both co-captains of the team. I lead most of the mechanical stuff, and I'm also a junior in high school.
Yeah, and I'm Shrey, and I do some of the mechanical work, but I mainly lead the engineering notebook side of things on RevAmped.
Okay, so we can also cover what we're going to talk about in this presentation, so the kind of agenda. So we'll start off with some team dynamics, various dynamics that we've learned over the season, comprehensive year timeline, some off-season preparation that will be useful for your team, engineering notebook, what it is, how to write it properly, why it's important, as well as judging, and how to combine both your judging and engineering notebook, some design testing principles, and finally, an overall 4 lessons that we've kind of learned. All right, so let's start with team dynamics. The first dynamic is communication. So communication is extremely crucial to team success. And there are various platforms that you can use for it. So our team personally uses Slack and Discord, but you don't have to just use Slack and Discord. You can also use WhatsApp, Microsoft Teams, Skype, and there's a lot of professionals in the industry that use that too. So maybe some of your parents communicate with their colleagues through Slack or Microsoft Teams. And the reason communication is extremely important is because it helps keep everyone updated, and keeping everyone updated saves a lot of time, right? The less time you spend to achieve a goal is the increased team productivity and efficiency. And saving time for with easy tasks allows you to spend more of your time towards difficult tasks, right? There's a lot of things in your season that might take a lot more time than others. And finally, having good communication allows you to track your season effectively. And tracking your season chronologically is extremely useful for the engineering notebook in the case that you want to reformat or move some content in different places. And we'll talk a bit more about that later. But the biggest thing to know is that it can chronologically rank your meeting content. The second dynamic is organization. Now this follows and kind of combines with the communication dynamic. And basically this allows for an easier and cleaner access to materials and resources. So for example, there's physical situations like the workshop tools, or where your machines are in the shop, or where you keep your screws and everything like that, your sprockets, your chains. That's one type of organization. But communication is also some form of organization, right? So keeping everything in one place. Organization also allows for easy distribution of tasks among team members. So task distribution is a lot easier when everything is in one place. For example, if you were building your drivetrain, then you can, if you had your metal in one place and your screws in one spot, and then you have your machines in another spot, it makes it a lot easier to assemble your part in one place, but then it allows you to machine your parts in a different place. And that's like that's one way that we distribute tasks. Some people on our team just machine the parts, and then other people, or another set of people, assemble them together. And finally, an organized engineering notebook is much easier to read. And we'll talk about it a bit more later, obviously, but judges have very limited time in their entire day. There's so many teams, and they only get limited time to read your notebook. All right, the third and final dynamic are team roles. So having team roles and team leads increases the ability for you to organize your actual team. So as you can see, it's kind of like organization falls under communication and team roles falls under organization, right? So for example, Shrey and I are the co-captains of the team, and then we also have like programming leads, mechanical leads. And this allows for easy organization of the content and distribution of tasks. And also one thing to note, which is really important, is that members work alongside the leads. They do not work for the leads. You also need to, if you're doing team roles, you need to assign your roles based on team interest and availability. And obviously, I don't know, this might just be me, but I know for a fact that I work a lot better when I'm doing something that I enjoy. And I'm pretty sure that's probably the case with a lot of you. And since the goal is to maximize team productivity, if someone likes programming and they do building, then that makes it a bit more difficult to have an increased team productivity. So the goal is to assign people to the tasks that they enjoy. Team roles are also extremely fluid, right? So in the beginning of the year, so basically from now until League Meet 1, there's going to be a lot of building, right? And before you build a robot, you can't program anything. So that's why team roles are fluid. Most people are going to be on the mechanical until the robot's actually in a functional state, and then programmers will start to be able to control the robot for autonomous, program the autonomous, program the teleop, and give any sort of automation that you want.
All right, now we're just going to go over a quick year timeline so you can get some structure going into the season. So you can already see we're at Kickoff, which is the K on the left-hand side. But in the off-season, hopefully you guys started to actually meet and started to get some training going. And this training is really important because it can take those rookie members and it can allow them to hit the ground running once Kickoff or once the season starts. So hopefully if you guys have had some rookie members, you guys trained them like how to design, how to use the machines in your shop. They can just jump right into the designing process and help build a robot. But now let's move on from Kickoff to league meets, to our league meets, which is kind of where we're at right now. And this is where you want to use the entire team to help design the robot. And kind of use those design strategies that you learned in the off-season to help you with that process. And during this time, you also want to get started, if you haven't already, on your engineering notebook, because later on in the season, it'll become way harder to track all of your information because you're trying to remember things from like 3 months ago. And I tried to do that one season and it was not fun, so please don't do that. Yeah, so keep track of your meetings early on, and that'll save you a lot of time later on. And out of the league meets, you're on to the league championship now, so that is the first actually judged competition where you have the chance of getting eliminated. And this is the time where you need to rethink your design. So during the league meets, you would be adding some components to your robot, and you might see that some things are working, some things aren't, and that's completely the purpose of the league meets. So now you can take that knowledge that you got in the league meets and actually apply it and get a really good robot for league championships. You also need to work on your judging presentation in an engineering notebook. Hopefully you guys are already working on your engineering notebook and kind of get that ready to be judged. If you qualify from league championship to the super qualifier, you just need to keep refining your robot efficiency and finish it off if you don't have all the mechanisms on there, which you should by now. And then continue to work on those impactful outreaches and develop the quality of your engineering notebook. And if you advance from the super qualifier to the state championship, you're going to make your last robot design changes, or like your last major robot changes. And this is really important because if you make robot changes from the state championship to the world championship, you really won't know how those changes fare in a real match condition, because there are no real competitions between states and worlds, so there's no really legitimate way to test a robot. And obviously between those times, between super qualifier and states and worlds, you just need to keep working on your engineering notebook. All right, hope this is kind of, the off season's already over, but hopefully you guys can take some of this knowledge into your next season. So I kind of touched on this earlier. The main thing is you want to train your rookie members if you guys have any. Us, RevAmped, and I can give another example, Overcharged. Each year we get new rookie members, and sometimes they don't know anything about FIRST. So it's our job to make sure that they can actually help once the season comes around. So that can be how to do CAD, the basics of design, and get familiar with the machines and actually how to use them. And another thing that you can do is host these weekly design discussions. And we started doing this a couple of years ago, just in the summertime, where we analyze or we look at really high quality gameplay. So that can be from World's final matches. And outreach, you guys probably know this, it falls into two categories. The first is STEM related, or your industrial outreaches, and then there's also non-technical or non-STEM related. So you want to make sure you guys are doing an equal share of both and just not focusing on one or the other. And the final thing, and we'll just dive right into this, is the engineering notebook. You want to start setting it up. Is there going to be like one person writing it on your team? Are you going to have like a couple people writing it? And you can look at your previous year's engineering notebook to see what you guys got kind of dinged on, especially from the judging rubric, because now you guys can get those, and see what improvements you guys can make. And then just the last thing on there, start writing it. It'll save you a lot of time and a lot of stress later on. All right, and let's just start talking about the engineering notebook a little bit. All right, so the basics, if you guys are rookie teams, you guys are unfamiliar with FTC, it's essentially a big documentation of your team. And it has things like your robot design, outreaches, funding, team information, things like that. And one other important note is that it's written in entry form, so it's not like one giant paper you might write for like an English class. They're distinct entries, and those entries should kind of flow together like chapters in a book. So your engineering notebook might be an entire book, but then each entry is like a chapter, and those chapters should make sense in chronological order. And we'll just touch on this in the next slide, but it's really important to have a really good engineering notebook for judged awards, as well as the engineering portfolio, which was a new requirement added last year. It's essentially a 15-page summary of your notebook. And you guys, one tip is to write your notebook first and then condense it into the 15-page summary, because it's easier to write a summary than to go the other way and take the summary and expand it out. All right, and you guys might not be able to see this, but this really shows the importance of the engineering notebook. So this is like the judge's manual, and all those like yellow highlights are references of the engineering notebook. And on the left side, those are all the awards. So you can see for every award, there's at least one reference of the engineering notebook. And it just says, must submit an engineering notebook, team's journey and experience, things like that. So this, again, just really shows how extremely important it is to have a high-quality engineering notebook. It can also save you from a poor judging session. So if you give some like general like answers, or you kind of forget some part of your presentation, the judges can go and reference those missed parts in your engineering notebook. All right, you're probably at this point like, I got all this information, but how do I take that first step? How do I actually start writing this notebook? Well, you want to utilize the team. Some teams might utilize like the notebook wizard strategy, where only one single member of the team goes out and writes the entire engineering notebook cover to cover. And although this is really efficient because that one person doesn't have to coordinate the rest of the team, it is really bad for the entire team. Because if you get the entire team involved, or at least a couple people involved, it'll really improve the understanding and the understanding of your team. And where you can actually write the EN. So the most popular ones are G Suite, so like Google Drive, and then there's Microsoft Office or Office Online. And then most teams, they do like a combination of the two. So for example, Google Drive, or like Google is really good at collaboration because you can just send it out to your friends and your team members, while Microsoft Office is really good in the formatting and all the polishing aspects, but it's not so good in the collaboration. So that's why some teams kind of combine it. They'll write all the content in Google Drive or like Google Docs, and then they'll move it to Microsoft Word to polish it up. The other two options, which are, I would personally recommend them, are Apple Notes and Handwritten. Handwritten, you have to, it just becomes really hard to do it because if you need to add a page in between or draw something, it'll get kind of complicated in that sense. And Notes, it doesn't have the best collaborativity or formatting. So I recommend Google Docs or Microsoft Word. All right, and this is just kind of a general format or layout, and some things that you should really, or you have to include in your engineering notebook. So there are some key requirements. So there's team information, so your like team biographies, engineering content, so information that you, or like when you guys go to build a robot, that type of information. And then there's outreach, so when you go visit like schools or other companies. And then there's team sustainability and business plan. So team sustainability is like the training process I mentioned earlier. How do you actually get those rookies and how do you get them to properly function in your FTC team? And business plan is just your funding. How do you obtain funding? Do you get like grants, volunteer matching, or do you guys, or how do you keep track of your expenses? And what were your like predicted expenses and how much did you actually like spend for that season? And there are some additional pieces of information that can really make your engineering notebook stand out. So the main one being a thorough understanding or a thorough display of the design process. So going from like those whiteboard sketches to like, laying it out in CAD, making those first prototypes, and then actually putting that final model onto your robot. If you can show that and support it maybe with some like, math or some physics, that will really make your engineering notebook and the quality of it just stand out because it will really show the judges that you have a solid understanding of the of design principles. And the other thing that can help with this is readability. So don't you just love to look at something like this example engineering notebook here, how easy it is to read. It just, you can clearly see the title and who was there, what did they do, and there's like a picture. And there's some key things to note about this that makes it really easy to read. The first thing is the color and font. So they use a consistent red color, and they also use black. And I can imagine that in the rest of the pages of their engineering notebook, they'll continue to use that same red and black, obviously. And having a consistent color theme, like on your shirts, anywhere like on your Instagram posts or social media posts, that will really solidify your team and essentially make it a brand. And one other good thing to add is pictures. I'm sure you guys have heard the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it's especially true in the engineering notebook, because although if you have a really good description of some part or mechanism, having a picture of that finished part will make the understanding 10 times better. And at this point, we just covered a lot of information, so we just like to take a quick survey. Are there any questions before we move on?
Does anyone have anything they want to ask us, or anything they think we didn't cover? No? Alright, well, we can move on then. Alright, so next we're going to talk about judging. Okay, so what exactly is the goal of judging, right? So we go into the judging room, we present our presentation to the judges. But what is the point of that? The point of it is to give the judges familiarity with your team and your robot. So the point of the judging presentation is to introduce these key robot components and outreaches to your judges and kind of elaborate the biggest points in your engineering notebook to them. And the Q&A session after the judging presentation allows the judges to maybe follow up on more questions that they had, or maybe some things that you didn't cover, because the judges, they see your presentation different than what you see it, right? And they want to know more about what you did. And also, judging allows you to make the judges want to read your engineering notebook. If you had a really boring judging presentation, or if you didn't really stand out, they won't be as incentivized to read your engineering notebook. Whereas if you're super interesting and you had a really good presentation and you showed all the unique aspects of your robot, you showed all the different ways that you've outreached, they'll be like, oh, I want to see more. Maybe this team has even more to see. And that's why they would read your engineering notebook. So, how exactly do I have a good judging session, right? What makes a good judging session? So for starters, in the judging session, there are several types of judges. So, for example, one judge might be looking for the Think Award, one judge might be looking for the Design Award, one judge might be looking for the Control Award. And you want to make sure that you tailor your presentation so that all the judges can receive as much information as possible. You also want to create, like I was saying, a presentation that is tailored to certain awards. Maybe if you guys don't have the strongest outreach, but you have a good robot, then you can tailor your judging presentation to emphasize the most unique parts or the most crucial parts, or like the way that your robot's efficient, right? It's similar to like a sales pitch, and you don't want to provide unnecessary information. And you have to consistently iterate your scripts. So like Trey was talking about with the overall comprehensive year timeline, you want to keep iterating over your scripts during the competitions, and this year we also received the judges' feedback, so that helps a lot for it. And another thing that might get overlooked a lot is that a shorter presentation is a longer Q&A session. And our team values the Q&A session very much because that allows the judges to ask us what they were thinking rather than us telling them what we want. Also, another important thing in a judging session is that everyone should be able to speak. Everyone should have a part in the judging session. Or if they don't have a part, they should answer a lot of the judges' questions. Inclusion is key, and the judges don't want to see a team where only one person does all the work, because that's not really a team, right? And it also allows you to keep the presentation organized. That's another benefit of it. So for example, like one person can talk about the robot, or like the first stage of the robot. One person can talk about the second stage of the robot. One person can talk about programming. One person can talk about a special part of your robot. And that allows you to kind of emphasize in more detail on the certain parts of your robot. Next, we can talk about design testing. So this is not really related too much to the judging, but this is more a mechanical thing. So for starters, a design test bed is like a little, it's not like your full robot, it's where you test a component of your robot. So one thing to note is that theory and practice may not always align. And because of that, test beds can help a lot. Testing allows you to see how much sense your design actually makes. For example, something may look super good on paper, but the moment you actually try it out, it falls apart, or it doesn't work, or something goes wrong. And the purpose of a test bed is to make sure that you know the part is fully functional before it goes into your robot. Test beds also allow you to play with certain variables. So for example, last year there was a shooting game, and we used a design test bed to take only our shooter and mount it up at a certain angle, and we took some calculations, and we found that the best angle for our shooting in the game season was around 30 degrees. And we could change the motor power, the height, and those are the two main variables that we wanted to change, and the test bed allowed us to do that. Test beds allow you to analyze and critique multiple different designs. So you can create criteria for a problem and just kind of compare the different designs and choose which one would be best inside your robot. Also, some other important practices when testing are to always keep a tester program in hand, right? When you don't have your design on a test bed, you have to use the robot to test it. And when you have a tester program, it allows you to check, like, maybe if your servo is miscalibrated, for example. It can tell you the proper servo position that you want to move it at. And this is also extremely important during competitions. So a lot of the times, something happens in a match. Let's say your arm is sticking out, and then you run into a robot, and the servo breaks, right? So you need to recalibrate it, and sometimes that takes a long time. So having a servo tester program can help your entire team multitask and do multiple things at the same time. It's also very useful in general to diagnose robot errors. Also, before the day of the competition, it's very important to ensure that you don't overwork your robot. You don't do a lot of tests. You don't do a lot of driver practice. You don't do a lot of testing, and you want to do a lot of testing to make sure that your robot is at its best ability. And because on game day, that's what everything matters, right? It doesn't matter if you have one more driver practice after 200 driver practices already. And because of that, our team has prevented a lot of failures during the competition. We caught a lot of different things, like for example, one year our slides broke the day before, so we stayed up until like 3 a.m. or something fixing it. But on the game day, our slides were working, so that's what's the most important. Also, make sure to carry a servo tester in your toolbox. Servos are probably the most weak part, mechanical part of a robot, or like motion part of a robot. And because of that, servo testers are just really useful to making fixes. All right, so these are the overall final lessons that we can talk about. So the first overall lesson is to learn from others, right? So as Trey mentioned, in our off season, we love to conduct design discussions and look from the best teams in the world. Because let's face it, there's always going to be a team that does something better than you. So looking from other teams can help you learn from the top, the best of the best, and learn how to design effectively. What are the common designs and trends, right? Like, for example, there's a meta design every year, the most effective tactic available. And that's basically the design that most teams use at the higher level. Why are particular designs working? Why are some not? Why is this design better than mine? And finally, you can also adapt throughout the season, right? There's no real rule against copying an FTC. That's what makes it special, right? There's no copyright. Two people can have the exact same robot, but in that case, then there's another variable. There's strategy, right? So you have to constantly adapt to other players throughout the season. And the focus, obviously, as much as you can copy, you should not be just copying another robot. You should be taking inspiration from them. Learning how they came up with the design is really important because you want to be able to reiterate on that. What happens if there's not another team like them next year? Then you don't have any ability, right? You didn't learn anything from this copy. The second lesson is to organize a team. So this is pretty much just a recap of the organization spiel I gave at the beginning. But you want to divide and conquer. Split the team up based on their interests and availability, distribute your tasks as effectively as possible, and just maximize your team productivity. You also want to set up robust communication, because communication is key, making sure everyone is aware. A small team is also very easy to coordinate. So what we like to do is, when we're designing our robot, we like to split into sub-teams. And, for example, our team wants to split into groups of like 2 or 3. And we can all design one of these parts, and then later on in the year, we start to come together and assemble these parts together. Also, this allows there to be fewer team members in the shop at once, working on the robot, because let's be honest, having your entire team starts forming distractions. If there's 8 people in the shop, there's only 3 people working. Then there's 5 people distracting, 5 people doing nothing. It's just wasting time, right? And a lack of this, fewer members creates a lack of this crowding. And lack of this crowding is fewer distractions. And fewer distractions overall, which is the most important point that we covered, is an increase in team productivity. So the goal is to increase your team productivity.
All right, and then the third lesson is that you have to learn how to properly plan. You have to fully plan out your season. You have to know when you want to do certain things. And you can kind of start with that by making a design and having a simple planned out execution. And if you guys remember from our mechanical design presentation last week, a robot generally has a couple main components. So drivetrain, intake, like deposition or like scoring, and then endgame. So if you can have a design that encompasses all of these features, but it's not overly complex, or it's not like, I don't want to use the word showy, but it accomplishes the game without doing excess things, then it'll be really simple going later on in the season. And that kind of leads on to the next point. If you plan everything out now, like we just had kickoff, if you plan everything out pretty recent, or like a couple days after kickoff, if you take even the entire week to plan out your robot, then it'll save so many more hours down the road. So for example, you spend only 2 hours brainstorming the possible, components or the possible ways to solve the game this year. If you spend only 2 hours now, you'll probably spend like 20 or 30 redoing your robot in winter break. So that's why it's really important to make sure that your robot right now is how you actually want it to be in the season. Obviously this can change based on like if it doesn't really work with the game or things like that, but if you really properly think it out, it can mitigate those factors. And finally is the final thing that it also ties into like spend time thinking now, is to thoroughly experiment. So one way you can do this is to use CAD. So if you lay out all your designs and see how they fit together, you won't have to spend those 20 to 30 hours later, redoing your robot or considering the factor that this piece doesn't fit where I want it to go. And our final lesson is introspection is key. So you want to always reflect on yourself and on your team after big events. So maybe kickoff, you might have a brainstorming session. After every competition, maybe even at the end of the season. And one really nice way to do this at the end of the season is to have like a party or like a picnic. It's just a really great team bonding experience where you can, just have fun and get ready for the next season. And the best way to learn about yourself is to actually get your own lessons, because you'll learn way more if you know what you did wrong, if you know how you failed, than somebody else coming and telling you how you did that. And that's it. Thanks everyone so much for listening. If you have questions, we'll take them now, or you can email us at revampedrobotics@gmail.com. Are there any questions?
All right, does anyone have any questions you'd like to ask? Any burning things? All right.
If there are no questions, just a reminder that this was the second presentation in our knowledge sharing series. There will be 4 more after this. The next one is this Saturday, so September 26th at 3 p.m. and that will be programming presented by Overcharged. And if you need to register or you haven't already, the Zoom details will be provided on the registration link, which is tinyurl.com/FTC series.
Yep, so for the next 4 weeks, every Sunday, we're going to be having or hosting a presentation. Oh, you have a question?
Yeah, just copy of the slides. Are they going to be available for teams to look at?
Yeah, so what we'll do, we'll have a PDF of the slide presentation and we can share them. So if you don't mind, could you just send us an email asking for them? Thank you. All right, is that it?
Are there recordings of the presentation?
Recordings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this whole thing is...
Yeah, this whole thing was live streamed on Twitch. And yeah, and our last presentation, for some reason the recording glitched and it only recorded a part of it, so we'll have the PDFs. But from these next 4 ones, we're going to have a full recording of the whole thing.
Oh, and just a note, it's streamed live on YouTube, not Twitch, on our YouTube channel, which is Revamped Robotics.
Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, if that's it,
There's another one. We can go on to the next topic on the agenda.
Yeah, so the next thing that we have on our agenda is finally the thing that you guys have been waiting for, which is the field interaction. So we have the field, you guys can come, play with it, see the blocks, see the wobbling, the carousel, things like that. But yeah.
There's one other, before you take it down, there is a promotional video from Pitsco, the company that manufactured patents. So if teams are using that, they had some promotion going on in terms of the parts and all. Let me just quickly play that. Play that video, and I think they're offering, there's that one too. This one is Andy Marks. So there are a couple of coupons on this. If you guys are going to order any parts, you can obviously leverage these. And the Pitsco is also offering some amazing deal. Let me play their video.
Yeah. We'll have these things out there, and please take a photograph of this so that you can use the coupon.
Yep.
So yeah, those coupons will be out there, and now we're going to play a quick promotional video.